When I was young and dumb, old and dumb, I was certain of a lot. It was very clear. And as I grew even older and wised up, I began to see nothing was as clear as I thought it was. Human problems are always more complicated than one might observe. I remember years and years ago now, there was this campaign to stop child labor in this part of the world, and they were successful. And 6 months goes by, and everyone's forgotten about it. And the internet was still new, and I went and looked up the place, and everybody was starving to death because the kids were all working because their parents had been injured or killed in a civil war. And the reason that there was child labor everywhere is because the kids were the only ones that could work the jobs. And they were successful in stopping child labor. All these very wealthy Westerners were successful in stopping these kids from working so they could all starve to death. And people came away feeling very good about themselves, dooming these children because they didn't understand the issues and they knew what was right and they knew what was wrong. And anytime I see people give like unilateral opinions like that, I don't really put a lot of stock in it. And I usually, for myself, think that there's some turmoil inside them that is making them so irrational and see things so foolishly. Because human issues are always very complicated. And there's obviously an issue that if you spend your time looking and looking and looking and trying to figure things out, that you won't get anything done. I remember one time I asked myself, why do you read all this news every day? Like, you can't do anything about it. You concern yourself with all these issues that have nothing to do with your life. And you have a lot of emotion invested in that while your life is in tatters. And in my opinion, I did it so I didn't have to deal with my own life. And I got to feel the moral justification that I was serving some greater good while I would allow people in my own life to suffer because I was right. Obviously, I don't think I was very right. Now, there's an example I use that I am particularly not proud of, where I knew this girl, and she would always talk bad about herself. And she would always say really negative stuff about herself. And she had this ideology that made her see the world this way. And so I said to myself, well, if we get rid of that ideology, then she'll feel better about herself because that ideology is what's making her say all these negative things about herself. So I set about dissuading her of these ideas. And eventually, I was able to sow the seed of doubt. Later on, I came to see all I had done is take away something that made her feel very special and unique. She still had all the same problems, but all I had done is take away something that made her feel good about herself because I knew I was right. And that's a lot of what I see with the internet and people ranting and raving and giving answers about problems they have no idea, no experience with. no ability to actually handle or understand, because they have problems in their life they don't want to confront. So they focus on something that is unable to be solved by them. You know, take it for what it's worth, I guess.